Welcome to Next Scene's Great Adventure, covering Pee-wee's Big Adventure about 10 minutes at a time. Today we will be covering from about 8 minutes 20 seconds to 18 minutes 40 seconds. And joining us today for this segment is a special guest all the way from MASH Minute. It's Megan Coleman. Welcome, Megan.
Hello. Thanks, Sean, for having
Hello.
me.
Oh, well, thank you so much for stopping by. We're so excited to have you here for this little bit of the Big Adventure. So in this section, we get the reveal of the X1, Pee-wee's bicycle. We get an encounter with Francis, Pee-wee's nemesis. And after a short ride in the park, we get Mario's magic shop, and then finally a visit to Chuck's Bike-O-Rama. So their action's really picking up this section. So we get a little bit more of the exterior of Pee-wee's house, and we get some of the security measures that he has protecting his bicycles. So yeah, we've got a like a keypad with numbers. We've got an aerial antenna that somehow figures into things, and a switch, a tree branch that acts as a switch to to activate a hedge, a door in the hedge. And something I didn't notice till listening to the commentary. So sometimes director's commentary pays off. They mentioned that the cover, Tim Burton mentions the commentary, the cover for that little keypad is held on by duct tape.
Oh, really?
That
It
if
looked
you
a
look,
little, compared to everything else he has going on, it felt a little like rinky dinky. Like someone could easily find it, like, and just be like, start punching numbers or,
Yeah, it's not really that well hidden. Yeah, Tim Burton mentions they kind of, well, the way he said is we had to go with what we could deal with. And they didn't have a huge budget. I couldn't find exact numbers, but the reported budget on IMDb is about $6 million, which is, even in the 80s, is not a
That
lot
doesn't seem like a
for
lot.
a feature film. Not a lot, especially one with kind of so many stunts and effects and other things that this has. I mean, they could have spent, 1 or 2 million just on Pee-wee's bedroom and the yard and the bike itself. So I think that's where most of the budget
In the
went
house.
to. Yeah. And we get our first really good look at the X1. Did you have like a treasured bicycle growing up, or maybe do you have a treasured bicycle
I
now,
did.
Megan? Yeah.
Oh, I did. I had a Huffy bike when I was, how old was I? I think I was in second or third grade.
Mhm.
And it was called Wild Thing. I don't know why they like already on the bike. It was called Wild Thing, and it had this
Wild
90s
thing.
spray paint job on it. And I was such a nerd that I would start singing the Steppenwolf like Wild Thing song when I would be riding on it. And when I had to give it to my sister because I outgrew it, I actually ran away to my grandmother's house with a bike because I didn't want to give it away.
You didn't want to give it up. Well,
I didn't
yeah.
want to give it up. So I get when Pee-wee, like, I get the attachment he has to this bike.
You
The
understand.
love
So
he
this,
has for it.
yeah,
Yes. It's not just a bike. It's like a extension of him in a way, right?
it's yeah. Well, and it's freedom when you don't have a car. If you don't have a
Mhm.
license, you can't drive. It's how you get around. It's an extension. Yeah, I can understand that. I had a BMX. I was actually kind of late learning to ride a bike, but the first BMX bike I had, the first really nice bike that I liked, I think I was 12 or 13, and it was a Schwinn. I think it was a Schwinn, but it was like
Ooh.
BMX. It had like the fat tires,
Mhm.
and I remember it was black and gold. It was sleek, but yeah. So I definitely understand like that relationship between a young person, or the young at heart, and the bicycle.
Mhm.
It's a special relationship. And this yeah, this thing is decked out, and I talk a little bit about Schwinn and this particular bicycle in the episode on the deleted scenes I did. So, listener, if you haven't listen to that. You can rewind, go back 2 episodes when you're done listening to this, and you'll get some bike information, some bike history. But I just want to do a quick rundown of all the different features that I noticed on this thing. So we've got, well, the tassels on the handlebars, of
Mhm.
course. We've got the lion head speaker with the mic that's kind of clipped on the side so Pee-wee can make announcements. We've got, I don't know what the term for it, but there's like spirals around the hub of the
Yeah,
wheels, those like wheel covers, but they're inside the spoke, so it's not like a hubcap. Um,
right.
but those are cool. I don't think I've seen those anywhere, but on this bike, this is really a special vehicle that Pee-wee's got there. Um, but so yeah, he's got these, those like hub covers. He's got the hard-sided saddlebags for storage, dual
Hmm.
rear view mirrors, dual brakes, the two-tone tank in white and red, the front light with propeller and fins. He's actually got two horns. He's got a push button horn. He's got like one of those balls you squeeze, and then he's got the
Yep.
horn that he's going to pick up later from Dottie. In addition to a bell, I noticed a bell on the handlebars.
Yeah.
Um,
He's a
we've
lot of
got
ways to
the
tell you he's coming.
yeah, we've got the a lot of ways. We've got the like the mud guards, over the wheels. We've got the white wall tires, the lightning. You can actually notice I have it I just happen to pause it right at the right moment where I can read the label on the white wall where it says lightning, and it's got little lightning bolts on the tire. He's got a rear tank over the rear wheel. We got the compass attached to the frame, and then the little license plate,
Oh
the
yeah.
brass or the bronze that says "Property of Pee Wee Herman," the license plate. So this is quite a special vehicle. um, and Paul Rubin says, so this was inspired. The bike he was given, well, he talks about how they used bicycles to get around on the Warner Brothers lot, that the studio lot where they make these movies is so wide that, we're so big that the people use bikes to get around. And Warner
Oh,
Brothers gave Paul a restored 1947 Schwinn Racer, was the inspiration for the film and for the X1. I can't imagine that it was as nice as this though. Um,
no.
but it must have been something special.
They did a
Uh,
really nice job with this bike though, with the paint job and everything.
yeah, yeah. This is really nice. I read that there was supposedly one of the bikes used in the film came up for auction um
Ooh.
previously, and like I wish I had known at the time, because it's something well, I probably still couldn't afford it. It ended up selling for $36,000 in 2014.
Wow.
So yeah, I probably wouldn't have been able to do anything even if I'd known about it, but I can definitely see how that's worth it. And I'm kind of surprised. So I couldn't find, there isn't like an internet bicycle database with more information on the bike. There's
For shame.
yeah, and it seems like there's a database, an internet database for everything else, or
I
yeah,
know, right?
there's the internet movie database. There's an internet movie gun database if you want
Yep.
to look at firearms that are used in movies. There's a car database, the internet movie car database at
Huh.
cb.org, and it's got they have motorcycles, and they've even got some of the motorcycles, like when Pee-wee runs into the Satan's helpers, and then the motorcycles that are used, kind of the stand-in for X1 in the movie, within the movie at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't have anything on the bicycle
Like,
itself on the X1.
huh.
Unfortunately, feels like a major oversight
Right, because there's a lot of movies with bicycles
there. Yeah,
in
yeah.
them. That seems
Yeah, and so I couldn't find that like a dedicated internet movie bicycle database. So listeners, if there's someone out there who's like a big bicycle fan, I don't know if I know enough about bicycles to start that myself, but yeah, someone that has a history with movie bicycles, maybe start that up, get that going. So moving along in the action, then we get that interaction with Francis, and it's his birthday. And his father says he can have anything he wants, and he wants
the bike.
he wants the bike. He wants the X1, which which sends Pee-wee into a laughing fit, where he's literally rolling on the floor laughing. I love
It's like
that.
he knew that that was coming, right?
Yeah,
It's the
yeah.
impression I got. Like, oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Nope.
He knows Francis. He knows what is coming. I just want to back up, talk a little bit about, so the music, the great score, the Danny Elfman score continues this minute, and with the reveal of the X1, we have we have these brass instrument flourishes. We get the timpani and the big percussion, just letting us know how momentous, in case we couldn't figure it out ourselves, just seeing the bike. For the slow of us in the audience, just kind of letting you know, like, this is a big deal. You're supposed to be impressed, and I think we are. So just a quick couple notes on Mark Holton, who is the actor who plays Pee-wee. This is kind of his. He had done a couple things before this, but this is kind of considered his breakthrough role. He had done a couple other things. He was in Teen Wolf, which also came out in 1985, and Teen Wolf 2 in 87. Was in A League of Their Own in 1992, where he was the older Stillwell. So if you remember from that film, there's Stillwell, who's the young son of one of the players on the team, who's traveling, who's on the bus and traveling with the team. And then at the end, when everyone's aged up, he's the older Stillwell.
Oh, okay.
And then he played John Wayne Gacy in, I think it was a television movie, Gacy, about the serial killer in 2003. And kind of an interesting trivia thing. So he was in Leprechaun in 1993, and then reprised his role playing the same character in Leprechaun Returns in 2018. And so Mark and Warwick Davis are the only people to be in more than one Leprechaun movie. So he's got that going for him.
Huh. He looked familiar to me for some reason, and I couldn't place it, but I think it's because of League of Their Own.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe Teen Wolf too, but
yeah. He's got one of those faces, like, he looks familiar, and I was a little bit surprised.
But where do I know him from?
Yeah. When I kind of expected, looking him up on IMDb, I kind of expected more.
Really? But
just because of how familiar he looks. Like, I'm like, I figured he'd got to be in a lot of stuff, but and there was a lot of stuff that I hadn't seen. So I think probably Leprechaun and then A League of Their Own, in addition to this, of course, would have been the things I know him from. I really like this little bit. I mean, in addition to kind of introducing us to an antagonist and kind of kicking off what'll be the main plot of the film, revolving around the X1, is so many of the Pee-wee's lines, his kind of trite jokes that he tosses out. We get just in this one little these few minutes with Francis, we get, "I know you are, but what am I?" We get, "That's my name, don't wear it out." We get, "Why don't you make me?" We get the thing where, like, he holds his hand up to the ear and says, "I'm listening to reason." And then we get, when I think when Francis says, "Why don't you make me?" He says, "I don't make monkeys, I train them."
Yes.
Which was a new one to me. I hadn't heard that before the film. And then there's a couple more that are in the script that actually got cut, that didn't make the film. There's at one point after that. So when he says, "I don't make monkeys, I train them," and then Francis says, "You're the monkey," and that's when Pee-wee pulls out the classic, "I'm rubber, you're glue. Whatever you say bounces off of me and sticks to you." The classic line. And then the other thing that at one point Francis says, "Mark my words," and then Pee-wee says, "Got a pen? I'll mark them down." So those were a couple that didn't make the cut, but we've got plenty though, just packed into this small little bit. Do you have a favorite line? What do you think of, like, when Pee-wee starts pulling out these cliches? Do you have a favorite line of his?
I think that "I don't train monkeys."
Mm-hmm.
And I love like that they have such a good, I mean, I know they're not supposed to like each other, but they have a really good rapport, just going back and forth of, and their facial expressions. And that's what I really like about Pee-wee, is like he's like Rubens is really good at like delivering his lines, but it's like his facial expression, as his body language, like takes it up, like kind of makes it funny for me. And so, like, I think of other actors who would probably do it, and I just think, like, okay, yeah, sure, you train monkeys, right? But
yeah, it just,
like, what? That's what I am, like, sure, whatever, right? But there's something very genuine and also very, like, I don't want to say sarcastic, but that's the word that's coming to mind. Where he just sort of throws it back.
Yeah. There's a couple things. One, there's the obvious commitment that Paul Rubin puts into this character, and Mike too. I think that committing to this, just the childness and the immature. Sorry, not Mike. Mark Holton. Like, they just commit to we're gonna forget that we're mature grown-up adults for the
Right.
next few minutes, and we're gonna completely buy into it. Um, and yeah, it's a little bit of a loss. I mean, the film is great. I'm obviously a big fan, which is why I decided to do this, and I wouldn't want to change anything. But I realized like these two characters only have three scenes. They've got this. They've got later on when
With the
Pee Wee
pool, right?
confronts, yeah, in the pool slash bathtub
Right, exactly
at
true. Sorry, bathtub, quote unquote, right?
yeah at the Buxton residence, and then at the end, at the drive-in theater, like they don't have, it's almost like
Excuse me.
it's almost like a Hannibal Lecter or a Ned Ryerson in terms of kind of a foil or a character that has very little screen time, but yet plays a major role. It's a memorable
Mm-hmm.
part and plays a big role in the film and in the plot. And you can see like the effect that it has on that antagonist protagonist relationship.
Yeah.
Even just this small part. And one of the things that Tim Burton and Paul Rubens talk about in the commentary is that this was like a really late find. This was a late choice in casting Mark for this role, but I think they hit it they got just it's
Ooh.
just the right person for just the right part. Yeah, the chemistry is amazing.
Mm-hmm. Did
Yeah.
they say who they had? Like, was there somebody that they already had for the role, or they just and someone backed out, or
Yeah, no, they don't
they
say
didn't say
if
that?
like if someone backed out, or if they had like a long list of people they went through, and just like people weren't available or something. Like they
Right.
don't say
Yeah.
why. They just said like this happened to be a late casting. Um, yeah, so
Huh.
I kind of, yeah, I wonder if there's more story about that. But again, I think
It all
it
worked
all it
out.
all worked out for the best, I would say. So then we pull away from Francis, and we see PW goes on a little bit of a ride through the park. He sees some BMX riders doing some tricks, like they're standing on the
Yeah.
crossbar and stuff like that. And he does a couple things. He's trying to do some tricks. He ends up falling off his bike. Um, Makes kind of a graceful as he can be landing, rolls around, pops up, and we get another great line. I meant to do that.
I meant to do that.
And I think that might be my favorite sort of, I don't know, like Pee Wee isms, like of the lines that he throws out. The I meant to do that. Yeah,
And the kids just like stare at him like, okay.
yeah, yeah. The kids are just like, is this like,
What just happened?
yeah, what is going on?
Like, okay.
Yeah, one of them, there's one kid that kind of cracks, that like gives a little bit of a smile. The rest of them are like, they're like deadpan. I don't know, are these mannequins, are these like live children, or they're just great actors, because they're giving him nothing. There's no reaction at all, which
Yeah,
is
there's nothing. Yeah.
which in reality, like, and we've talked about, and we will talk about how kind of people, the other characters in the film sort of treat Pee-wee as, they kind of like treat him as he would want to be treated. They kind of treat him as sort of the man child that he is. But
Hmm.
these boys are looking at him like, who is this grown up? Who is this adult who
Right.
is, riding around on this crazy bike, that doesn't fit in like everyone else is, where kind of quote unquote modern, like not modern now, but
Right.
everyone else, we see a lot of other bikers and skateboarders and other things that are all like the modern vehicles for the 80s, and then here's this guy in this like throwback 40s retro, um, huge thing. Like that thing's got to be heavy, especially with all the additional equipment. Like there's
Right.
no surprise that he could not do a wheelie.
Right. Like, why would he think he could do a wheelie? I don't.
Yeah, I can't imagine like what it would take to get this bike into a
Well, even
wheelie.
just to get it going enough for him to do the leg things where he's, it's still going forward, but he's not
Mhm.
actually pedaling, and he's got like his legs on the side and he switches sides. Like, I can't imagine if that bike is like a tank, essentially, how you.
Yeah, just to get like the momentum going,
Yeah.
to keep it moving when you're not pedaling. That's yeah, a little bit impressive. Uh, I
Unless they had
imagine.
somebody like pulling off screen, like just pulling the bike, and Paul's just like, okay, and this side, and this side, and just
Yeah, which they probably they probably did. Although, I mean, it's not that much of a trick that he does, but I wonder if they just to make sure that he stays up for filming.
True. Yeah.
So we do see him. I mean, there are a couple like far away shots where you see the whole bike when he like puts his feet like to the front up
Mm.
on
Oh,
the
that's
handlebars.
true.
Like we
Yeah.
definitely see that. So and that's definitely like that's Paul Rubens. That's not a stunt man, I don't think. Like that's not like a stunt rider. That's the real thing. So yeah, he does his own stunts, at least some of them.
Woohoo.
Um, that's impressive. And so we pull into the mall, and the speaking of a heavy bike, that's got to be what, 50 pounds of big solid metal
Probably.
chain that he pulls up to chain up his bike. So I can see, we were talking about how special a bike is to a young person, and that my black and gold BMX bike that I had actually ended up getting stolen. I should
Oh.
have been chaining it up just the same way that Pee Wee did. Yeah, and actually I was right in front of my house. I just left it in front of the house. I thought it would be safe there, and then I think I may have left it out overnight even, and I went out the next day and it was gone. So
Oh.
so Pee Wee is, although even the best defenses can be defeated,
Yes.
um, as we will see later. But so Pee Wee chains up the bike and makes his way into Mario's magic shop. But before we move ahead, I'm going to take this opportunity to pause and let's get to know Megan a little bit more, and I'll ask you. So, what's your history with the character Pee Wee Herman and this film with Pee Wee's Big Adventure? When did you first get to know Pee Wee? When did you first see the film?
I remember Pee Wee on like the television show as a kid. Um, and thinking it was really cool but really weird, but like couldn't not watch it if it came on,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because like he had that giant crazy I don't even remember the character's name, but he had the chair that would
Cherry.
talk. Sherry, there you
Yeah, of
go.
course.
Right, of course. And like I mean, now looking back on it at the time, I didn't know who some of these guest stars were, right? But it turns out some of these people were really kind of well known, which I don't know if like that show was on like what, late 80s originally. I probably saw it a little bit in reruns too, but I don't think I saw the movie until I was like maybe in high school or college.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why there was that like gap, if you will, but I don't even know if I was a kid if I even knew there was a movie, to be honest with you. I just knew it was the TV show.
Mm-hmm.
And I always loved that
Yeah.
he was so dressed up too. Like especially compared to every other sort of cartoon Saturday morning show out there. He was so dressed up, and I just loved that for some reason. As a little kid, I just thought that was
Yeah.
adorable and awesome. And I grew up with the Lawrence Welk show, so maybe there was a little bit of that too, of like just like
Yeah.
people just being dressed and fancy and doing their own thing.
Yeah, so a little bit of a throwback in terms of like, yeah, a children's show host wearing a suit and tie, a bow tie even.
Right.
Um, yeah, so the show was like late 80s to early 90s. But yeah, watching it now, and I didn't watch the Playhouse, the TV show at the time, but going back and watching it now, you see Phil Hartman, of course, but Lawrence Fishburne,
Yeah.
um, Epatha Murkison. Yeah, so you see like a lot of people that went on to become like big stars for like adult entertainment. Not that came out wrong.
I know
Not
what you
like
mean.
X-rated adult, like
No,
grown up
but like
entertainment.
grown-ups, right.
Grown up entertainment. Yeah,
Right.
that's what I mean.
No.
Oh, and this like blew my mind. This was like a little bit of trivia that I had no idea. Natasha Lyonne,
Wait, she
little
was
baby Natasha as a kid, was on
really?
Playhouse.
How did I not know that?
Yeah. She's in like a half a dozen episodes. There's a group of 3 kids. I think it's 2 girls and a boy that come into the Playhouse a few times. And she's like, 8 or 10 years old, like really little at the time. But like, yeah, and like it was
Oh
one of
my
those things that
gosh,
like
yes.
like
I just
I know
Googled
some
it.
people are really good at like picking out like people like they're like early roles and stuff. Like I had no idea, but then once I knew it and you see it, like, yeah, that's it, imagine what Natasha Lyonne as a child would look like. And
Oh
Yeah,
my, I know she has such 80s like hippie hair. It's hilarious. Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
yeah. And I don't know if that was something like typecasting or just like from her personality or whatever. But yeah, she's always
Hmm.
got like a bandana on her head. She's always dressed like a little hippie, which is
Yeah.
kind of weird for the late 80s, which I guess it's maybe they're saying like her parents could have been hippies from the 60s kind of thing. Like
Oh
it's,
yeah.
but it's in a typical weird Pee-wee's Playhouse fashion. Like it's just as weird as everything else that was going with that show.
I probably didn't even question it, honestly, as a kid. Just like they all dress, the way they want to dress. Like, go for it.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so then by the time you saw the film, you knew the character and you weren't thrown off by like that you weren't thrown off the way those kids on their bikes were like that this is like why is
No.
this grown man acting like a child? You were like, nope,
No, that's Pee-wee.
that's Pee-wee. That's
I
what
mean, it
he's
was
got.
interesting to me how most adults, even though he is kind of like you said earlier, like even though he's kind of childlike, they did
Mhm.
sort of treat him like an adult for the most part, Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you get some looks and some people are like, ugh, but there's still this like, okay, well, you're over 18. We expect certain things out of you.
And so when we'll see someone kind of interacting and treating him as adult a little bit later when we get to Dottie. But before we get to that, we've got Mario's Magic Shop and a couple things. First when we walk in, the so this shot is reversed. So we see Mario's Magic Shop spelled out on the glass door, but it's spelled out so we could read it. But the letters should be facing outside, like it should be backwards when you're inside looking out. But I guess for the benefit of the audience, the shot's been reversed so we can read it. We can read the door. And so in this shot, also quick little thing, it's a blink if you missed it. On the left side of that door as Pee-wee's entering, we see an Elvira poster. And Elvira, of
Oh
course, played
yeah.
by Cassandra Peterson, who we'll see in a later part as our biker mama. So a little bit of appearance there. Yeah.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah. So Pee-wee meets with Mario of the eponymous magic shop. Mario is played by Monte Landis, who's got quite an extensive IMDb resume, going all the way back to his first feature is The Mouse That Roared from 1959. But a couple things that I thought was interesting. So it does some movie work, all through the 60s up through 21st century. But things I picked out were Real Genius in 85, Body Double 84, Yellow Beard in 83. A couple of my favorites. A real small part in Young Frankenstein from 1974, where he's the gravedigger when
Hmm.
Victor and Igor go to retrieve the body that will become the monster or the creature. It's a little another a blink and you miss it little part where Mario's there digging the grave or burying the body that they're about to dig up. But the real interesting thing that I found was he's in 3 episodes of the 60s Batman series playing character Basil. I thought that was interesting.
Huh.
Um, and then also 7 episodes of the Monkey series from the 60s as well, where he pays often played an antagonist. It looked like I think he was in 7 episodes, and it looks like every episode he's got a different name. Like he plays a different character, but always the same kind of thing. He's the bad guy that's trying to foil the monkeys from having their fun. Um, but here he's playing Mario. He's a supplier of a great many things. And of course, from looking around, from seeing Pee-wee's house, all the gadgets and toys and everything
Mm.
he has. So of course, of course, Pee-wee would be a frequent shopper at this kind of shop. Um, we've got some good stuff. Again, I'll remind our listeners, if you haven't listened to our episode on the deleted scenes, this is one of the deleted scenes. There was a bit with Amazing Larry that eventually got cut out, but this is where that would be. But we see, we see well, 3 things that there's a lot of things that he pulls out, but there's 3 things that that Pee-wee ends up purchasing. So he gets the the trick gum.
Mhm.
He gets the headlight glasses and the boomerang bow tie,
Oh,
which
right.
are cool things.
I forgot about the bow tie.
Yeah, yeah, those are all fun things. This is a fun shop. Did you ever have a magic shop like this, or do you have one near you
No.
with just lots of weird, strange
No.
things?
No, I don't think we
Yeah.
do. And growing up, I don't think I ever really went in a magic shop. If we had one, I don't think I ever really did.
Mhm.
But I probably
Yeah.
would have loved it though.
Yeah. I remember growing up, I don't remember at the mall, but I know at the flea market that we went to a lot when I was a kid had a magic shop and had a little like little card games and coin tricks, like little tricks that came with instructions you could learn how to do. But then it also had the weird things. It had like the whoopee cushion and the
Hmm.
fake dog do and um, things like the ketchup and mustard bottles with a string that when you squeeze it, a yellow string shoots out,
Oh,
so you can
yeah.
like pretend to shoot people with mustard. Um, Now I look at something like this. This is how I know I'm old. I look at this scene and I just think like this is all clutter. Like these are all like cool little things, but I know like if I actually purchased them and brought them home, it'd be like, okay, this is just another thing I got to put on the shelf that's going to collect dust.
So my thing of like, oh, you got old is how does he stay in business? Like, who's buying all this stuff? How is he affording the rent? Like, how does he afford? Like, does he get his own Like, does he pay himself a salary? Like, what is he?
Mhm.
Does he make money? Like,
Yeah. Does he just go off of like Pee Wee? Is Pee Wee the one that's keeping him in business?
exactly. Yes, it's just Pee Wee, and then there's that like poor other lady who's in there who looks like she just wants to be left alone to look at whatever, and keeps kind of looking
Yeah.
over at Pee Wee and being like, "What?"
Yeah. Who like Pee Wee is harassing with the X-ray specs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I wonder what like she's like, she brought a watch she brought a watch in to be fixed at the jewelry store next door or something, and
Oh
she's,
yeah.
or she's early for a hair appointment, so she's just killing time. Like,
Right, exactly.
she doesn't look like she's not there to buy the
No.
way the way Pee Wee
Or she's
is.
meeting someone for lunch and she's just like, "Okay, yep,
Yeah.
I'll wait in here."
Yeah, I got 10 minutes to kill. Though I do see there are a lot of masks. So probably does like a seasonal business, good business
Oh
for
yeah,
Halloween.
Halloween.
That's probably the busy time at Mario's Magic Shop. But still, like, is that going to be enough to carry you through the year?
Well,
I
that
hope
week is
so.
Black Friday. I don't know.
What's the Black Friday for Halloween? Is it like the day after Labor Day or the day after Columbus Day when all the Halloween stuff is like on sale?
Oh,
I don't know.
I don't know.
But Mario's a lot of fun. So Mario's one of those people that, yeah, he's kind of, he's treating Pee Wee as an adult. He's not like, you know, where's your parent or who's going to pay for all this stuff. But he kind of understands the childlike nature
Hmm.
that Pee Wee has. And he's kind of, he's meeting him at that level, like with, things like, trick gum and, smoke bombs and stuff like that. He's like, all right, he's one of those adults that understands the maturity level of a kid um, or someone like Pee Wee.
Or like the
Uh,
giant head that comes out at one point.
I love that. I love that progression, that setup. Comedy comes in threes where it's like the shrunken head, the regular size, and then the giant.
The giant.
That's one of those things. Like I'm a little disappointed. Like that didn't come back to figure in later. There was no callback to a giant head later on.
Mm.
So if there's nothing else, I think that's all my notes I have on Mario. We exit the magic shop. We take a spin. We visit the X1, make sure it's safe and sound, and then we head to Chuck's Bike-O-Rama.
Woohoo.
Woohoo! Where we've got some bikers who see all the bikes lined up for sale. We've got some bikers. So there's seven bikers there. Only one of them is named. So Pee Wee says hi, Chip, and Chip is played by Damon Martin. And of the other bikers, only three are credited. We've only
Oh,
got 3 BMX kids listed in the credits in addition to Chip. And one of the other ones is David Glasser. And I wanted to mention those two, Damon and David, because they both went on, they both had kind of short acting careers, but both became producers. And had quite a few credits, particularly David Glasser, who's one of the BMX kids, has been a producer since 1993 and worked on, so he produced the series Yellowstone and the spinoff. So there's 1883 and 1923, which are kind of spinoffs or sequels.
mm-hmm.
And 1923 features Harrison Ford in a rare television role for him. So
Huh.
that was interesting. So like, yeah, a couple big name producers came out of this little BMX gang.
That's
Um,
funny.
yeah, I thought that was interesting. And then, yeah, and then we get on to Dottie, played by the wonderful Elizabeth E.G. Daly.
I like her.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I like her as an actress, and I like Dottie as a
Yeah,
character. I'm not sure.
I like Dottie a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and she's another one where I think there's good chemistry
Mm-hmm.
between them here, and they don't get enough scenes together. We've got this one, we've got later on after the bike is stolen, we get a couple phone calls
Mm-hmm.
that Pee Wee makes from on the road, but I guess it's um, kind of like the nature of the beast when you do you send someone out, like Pee Wee on an adventure on the hero's journey, then he, alone, when he leaves alone, so he's not going to get a lot of scenes with the people that we see here in the beginning until the end. And just like we said with Francis, he doesn't really team up again with Dottie till the drive-in at the very
Mm-hmm.
end. But she's really great. And a little bit of background for folks that aren't as familiar with Elizabeth Daly. She's got a ton of credits for acting, for voice acting. Did a lot of voice acting. Is probably most well known as Tommy Pickles. Um, and I didn't realize this, from Babe, Pig in the City. She's Babe.
She's Babe?
She's Babe
I knew she
in
was
Pig
Tommy
in the
Pickles, but
City.
I didn't realize she was Babe.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
I thought that was really cool. And then I got also toss in just a little. There's another Batman connection in the new Batman Adventures animated series in '88. She's in one episode as a thrift store manager. But so in addition to her acting and voiceover voice acting, also a singer with 4 albums. And 85 was kind of a big year for her. In addition to this coming out in '85, she had a top 10 single, Mind Over Matter, from the Summer School soundtrack. Summer School, another film that came out in '85. And actually another one from 1985, Better Off Dead. She's the singer at the school dance
Huh.
in that film. So shout out to Better Off Dead minute there. So yeah, the wonderful, the cute Elizabeth Daly.
She has like
Um,
the best 80s hair, like ponytail bang hair get up. Hairdo. That's
yeah,
what I'm trying to go for.
her
Hairdo.
hairdo. Yeah, she's kind of like a tomboy thing with the overalls, but it's
Yeah.
feminine at the same time with the like the up ponytail.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's like a name for that,
And
but
she's like she's got that 80s you didn't just throw it back, you teased everything, right? You put
yeah.
in some Elnet or whatever, Aquanet. Make sure it stays. Right?
So speaking of trying to get or treating Pee-wee like an adult, she's trying to get really adult with Pee-wee here, and she's trying to ask him out on a date, or ask him to the drive-in. And we get you know the famous, there's a lot of things about me you don't know anything about, things you wouldn't understand, things you couldn't understand, things you shouldn't understand. uh, and it's like, because and it's the well, there's a couple things going on here with that little bit. One is the juxtaposition. Like, we've seen how silly this character is. I mean,
Hmm.
we're like 15 minutes removed from him wearing bunny, little rabbit slippers chasing after a stuffed toy carrot. And now he's being all serious, like, yeah,
Like, you
like,
can't handle
he,
the truth, right? But
yeah, yeah, exactly. He's this dangerous loner. And, we know, no, there is nothing dangerous. The only dangerous thing about this guy is his toy budget and how much he's spending at Mary's. But this really smart writing, the sort of like the rhetorical devices, the repetition, and the well, kind of it like it shouldn't work, but it does, because that sentence actually, it begins and ends with Dottie, because he says, Dottie, there's a lot of things you don't know about me, or a lot of, Dottie, there's a lot of things about me you don't know. You don't know it. Sorry, let me get this liner. I'm looking at the script. So the way it's in script, Dottie, there's a lot of things about me you don't know anything about, Dottie. So like the Dottie at the beginning of the end,
Mhm.
which like shouldn't work. It should be like that redundant, should be awkward. But it kind of works the way he says it, and he's obviously a much
Mhm.
better. Paul Rubens is a much better actor than I am, which is not a surprise to anyone. He delivers the line the way to make it work. But then that repetition where he's like, things you wouldn't understand, things you couldn't understand, things you shouldn't understand, and then she says, I don't understand. So it's like really, that's like really good writing and like really smart humor, I
Mhm.
feel like. And along with all the silliness with the like, I know you are and what am I? And I meant to do that. Take a pic. There's a lot of
Yeah.
like really immature humor in the film, but like a lot of the writing is really smart, I feel like. So I like that. And I feel that helps the film, like it appeals to all ages. Like I was young, I saw this when it first came out, as a child, and I appreciated it then, and I can still watch it now as an adult. And so I think, even though this isn't, this doesn't happen around Christmas, it's not strictly a Christmas or a holiday film, I
Mhm.
think it qualifies as a holiday film because it is, certainly it has the rewatchability. It could be something that you watch every year. And it's certainly something that it's fun for the whole family. Like it appeals to, appeals to all ages. So
Mhm.
I think it's sort of it could be a non-traditional, holiday film. And so I wonder, Megan, if you have any holiday traditions that are sort of like not strictly tied to a holiday, like a Christmas tree or Hanukkah menorah, like that's tied to a holiday,
Yeah.
but kind of anything non-traditional. And to give you an example, I'll mention one of mine. Cracker Barrel is kind of a going to Cracker Barrel for dinner for lunch is sort of a holiday tradition, but there's nothing strictly holiday about it. It just so happens that there are no Cracker Barrels near where I live, but there's one on the way when I'm visiting family. There's one. It's about. I usually drive. I got family. It's like 4 or 5 hour drive, maybe
Mhm.
6 depending on traffic. There's a Cracker Barrel that's about an hour and a half away from my home, and it's at that point where like, okay, if we pass it, then we're close enough that it's like we might as well just wait till we're home to eat. But if we start getting
Right.
hungry, it's like that last stop before you're committed to just driving the rest of the way. We're like, if we're gonna eat on the road, this is the
Right.
place to stop. This is, and so a lot of times when we're traveling for holidays, we end up going to the Cracker Barrel.
Oh,
So
interesting.
yeah, so that's sort of there's nothing inherently holiday related in Cracker Barrel. It's just something we do a lot
Right.
around the holidays. So yeah, any examples like that you have?
My Gram's 90 gonna be 92 in a few weeks, and her
Oh,
birthday falls around Thanksgiving, so
hmm.
regardless of when my grandmother's birthday actually falls, we always do it the night before Thanksgiving.
Hmm.
And we usually go get food because obviously nobody wants to cook because 'cause they're
Yeah.
cooking the next day or everything's like the fridge is too full of
Yeah.
other stuff ready to be reheated or whatever.
Hmm.
Um,
That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, you
we
certainly,
I
yeah, because
also we also like hitting up the day after Christmas like for my family's like New England cheapo people. So like we go buy next year's wrapping paper, right? And then you try to find wrapping paper that's on sale that doesn't scream Christmas or Hanukkah or any holiday, but like plaid, like a nice plaid that you could use for all year round, right? And
Mhm.
just
Yeah,
plain brown paper bags for gift giving, right? Like that's just
yeah,
how we like.
yeah. But that's very, New England thrifty is, yeah, the day after Christmas, we're going to go out and we're going to shop for ribbons and bows and wrapping paper and all that stuff.
Right. Or if you're really cheap, like New Year's Day, if you want to wait and see
Yeah.
what's still left.
You kind of get the last remainders at that point.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Although that's getting harder to
It
do.
is getting harder to
Um,
do because it feels like everyone else is also doing that.
yeah. Well, and because the stores turn over things so quickly,
Yes.
like around me, there was no cheap Halloween candy. The day after Halloween, all the stores had put out all their Christmas stuff.
Yeah.
Like, so there was they turn over to the next holiday
Yeah.
so
There's
quickly.
like one tiny section where they just kind of shove everything, right? And they're
Yeah.
like, go for it. But
Yeah. So like all the bargain hunters have to, fight over the little bit of stuff that they leave out after
yeah.
the holiday. But yeah, that's a good tradition.
Yeah. I have a friend from college, a really good friend, whose birthday is 2 days after Christmas. And one summer, I found something at a yard sale that screamed her, and I didn't want to wait till Christmas to send
Mhm,
it to her. So I decided that I was going to do, and I still do this. Some point in the summer, I send her Christmas present, and
mhm.
I do it all up. Like I get out like my Christmas stickers, and I like decorate this thing like it's like Christmas in July or whatever. So then in December, when I send her a birthday present, like it's her birthday present. It's not
Mhm.
like because she gets a lot of combined stuff, or she gets like she remembers growing up and telling me she got like Christmas wrapping paper
Yeah.
for on her
Yeah.
birthday gifts, and like things that were clearly marked Christmas, and she's like, could you just
Yeah.
pretend? And I kind of get that a
Yeah.
little bit. My birthday's 2 days after Valentine's Day, so I'm used to getting like, here's the discount Valentine's Day candy, and I'm like, you couldn't even take the
Yeah.
the clearance sticker off it. Come on, guys, like, can
Yeah.
we just pretend for 10 seconds?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's nice. So you know what that's like. So you're like, all right, I'll give you we'll do like a Christmas in July or whatever. And then so your
Right?
birthday is just birthday.
Yeah.
That's nice.
And then our
That's
mom goes,
nice
"Why
to do.
didn't we think of this like 20 some odd years ago?" I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
know, but
I don't know. Uh, yeah, that's good. All right. So getting back, so we're kind of wrapping up this section. So, Pee Wee, wraps up his serious, you can't handle the truth speech, his I'm a loner Dottie, a rebel. And he's so serious and so straight with this presentation. He takes the horn, he turns and walks away. And we can like see the smirk. We can kind of see it from the side. And then as soon as he exits the bike shop, he is, he's skipping and jumping, and it's back to Pee Wee. But like we see that transition from like the serious PW to
hmm
the childlike Pee Wee Herman. Just in case like you took any of that seriously, you thought like, wow, like what's going on? Like this guy is really dark and mysterious. Like no, it's just Pee Wee.
this is Pee Wee.
And
He
he's a lot
needs
of
another
fun.
bicycle accessory,
Yeah,
just
yeah, James Bond stuff, really secret stuff. But yeah, and so that wraps up the section. Was there anything else you wanted? Any other notes you have on this 10 minutes of the film, or anything kind of Pee Wee Big Adventure related?
I just really loved the house and how much detail has gone into his house, and
Mhm.
like did half the budget go towards the house? Like what,
Yeah,
or did they just like go to Warner Brothers and go like, we're rating your prop room and just thank you
yeah,
very much. Like because
yeah.
it's
They
just
talk about it. Yeah, Paul Rubens and Tim Burton talk about it on the commentary track on the disc, where like I think the bedroom, like inside the house, that's a lot of Paul Rubens, but then the outside, that was like Tim Burton. And he did, and like uh particularly like the security stuff around the bike, like having like
hmm
the tree branch be the trigger for the hedge, and having like the antenna on the house, like the TV antenna turn around and everything. Like they like Paul said, like, oh, that was Tim Burton. Like he kind of came up with all that stuff. um yeah, yeah. And that's one of the things. So the inspiration to cover this particular film for for our special this year was kind of Paul Rubens, passed away earlier in the year, and that inspired me. Well, let me, I haven't seen the film for a while. Let me rewatch it, and like the combination of like you get the callbacks, and we talked about like the stuff from the magic shop, like the trick gum and the headlight glasses, the stuff that's going to call back, and even like the horn that he's picking up here. Like so, there's a lot of stuff that like there's just callbacks. Like there's a lot of stuff that goes in that they obviously thought about, they worked into later parts of the film, but then there's so much of it that's just one off. Like you can tell like a lot of thought and work went into these things just for that scene, just for that, just for that one little bit in the bedroom, just for that breakfast scene. You have all that mechanics and all the crazy stuff, all the stuff in the magic shop is just for that magic shop that he never goes back to. It never returns, other than the couple things that the Pee-wee bought. And that kind of amazed me, like the stuff that like, no, this is not a setup. There's no payoff. There's no callback. This is just a neat little scene that's just for itself and for no other reason. And I'm like, all right, it's fun. You don't need a reason. You don't have to call back. We can just have fun.
Yeah.
And this film, it's a lot of fun.
And
I had fun talking with you, Megan. I hope you had fun too.
I did. Yeah. No, thanks for having me.
Let me just check over. I did want to mention one other thing. I want one last note for this section. A note that mentioned that from the Danny Elfman commentary track on the disc, he talks about how he is completely self-taught as a musician, didn't take any classes or no formal education, but he does mention he says he calls it a non-student. He went to Cal Arts as a non-student, even though he didn't run into Tim Burton or Paul Rubens there. But yeah, so both Tim Burton and Paul Rubens attended the California Institute of the Arts, or Cal Art as they call it. Although I couldn't find exact years of when they attended, but I don't think they would have been there at the same time. Paul was born in 1952, and then Tim Burton was born in 58. So there's about 6 years in between. So if they just did the usual like high school to college thing, then then Paul would have graduated before Tim would have been there. And then so Danny Elfman, he doesn't say when he was there. He just says, he kind of hung out on campus and kind of snuck into classes without paying tuition. And then says like he didn't run into either of them. So he was born in 53. So he's closer in age to Paul Rubens, but I don't know when he attended, because he like traveled around Europe. He did, he did some, like musical theater troupe. He did, the Mystic Knights at the Oingo Boingo. Like he did a lot of different things before he settled down into a career as a musician. So like, he could have gone sooner, around the time when Paul was there, or he could have been attending later, around the time when Tim Burton would have been there. But he says he didn't run into either of them at the time. So I understand. Thought that was a little, a little interesting tidbit on Danny Elfman there. But so that was it. That's kind of my last note. And so we'll wrap it up for part 2 of our 9-part saga covering Pee-wee's Big Adventure. So listeners, thanks for coming so far. We're almost a third of the way through. So bear with us and hang on and come back next time. But once again, I want to thank you, Megan. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been a lot of fun. And so if our listeners don't already know where to find you, I'm sure they want to hear more of your insightful film commentary. So, so where can folks hear more from Megan?
I did, what was that, 120 episodes of MASH, the movie, but we talk about the TV show a lot. A lot. Yes, I thought we were doing the TV show, and then Tierney's like, psych, it's movies by minutes. And I was like, oh, okay. So that's at mashminute.com, and I am still in the research stages, but I'm hoping by mid-2024 to start releasing episodes for the American President Minute, because my favorite movie in this entire world is the 1995 political rom-com, The American President.
Yeah, that's a good one. Okay. So we're looking forward to that, listeners. So stand by, wait for The American President to come out. Of course, we're Next Scene Podcast. You can find us at Next Scene Pod We're at Next Scene Pod on all the social media, or some of the social media. So please come on back, where we will see you on the next scene.